I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Joel says, show my buddy Butch Rosenbalm and my buddy Patrick McCray. And if I have any sanity left tomorrow for my birthday, it'll be a miracle. We're here to review a very, very, very great Western. Major Dundee, which stars Charlton Heston, directed by Sam Peckinpah, written by Sam Peckinpah as well, one of the writers anyway. Butch, when did you first see this, dude?
I believe I saw it with Patrick sometime in the early knots, or at least a big part of it.
Yeah.
At the very least, he introduced me to it because it was like Charlton Heston, Sam Peckinpah. Now, for Patrick and my generation, Charlton Heston, I know you say the name, a lot of people go straight to NRA, but for us, it was Planet of the Apes, Omega Man,
Earthquake,
Soylent Green, Ten Commandments, he was just kind of a really cool guy. So, I still have that association.
Private War of Major.
What?
Private War of Major Benson. His most intense, edgy role ever.
Ever. I did.
Did you ever see that? That's his comedy. He made a comedy, Jewel, about he's a military guy who has to take care of a boy or something. I saw it years ago. It was fine.
I've never seen it.
For the they wanted him for the airplane movies and all of that. They started with the airplane. They kept coming back to him. He said, "Sorry, boys, it's not my sense of humor," and that's too bad. Because it wasn't Lloyd Bridges' sense of humor either, but Robert Stack said one thing to him, and that changed it. But he said, I just don't get the punchlines. And Stack turned to him and said, we are the punchlines. And suddenly he's doing Hot Shots Part 2, and, he's all over the place.
To me, it really... Because Robert Stack, when I hear the name Robert Stack, I think of Unsolved Mysteries. But when I hear Leslie Nielsen, I mean, my God, that changed his career for sure. But with this, I don't think Airplane would have changed Heston's career at all. Because Heston was such.
I think at that point.
What's that?
It would have improved it at that moment, when that movie was 79. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have improved it for sure. I agree with you. The thing of it is Heston, like, I get you said he did a comedy. I've never seen it, but had he done like the comedies that we saw, like Airplane and stuff like that, I agree with you. It would have improved it. Would it have changed like the aspect of Heston being this tough guy the way it did Leslie Nielsen? No, because and here's why.
No.
I love Leslie Nielsen to death, and I mean this in no disrespectful way at all. But if I'm looking at the competition of roles you're gonna get from an action standpoint, if you're Leslie Nielsen, compared to what's coming down the pipe in the 80s, I'm probably going the comedy route too. Because, in all honesty, because when you look at the 80s was a completely different animal than the 70s set up the 80s, but the 80s was a completely different animal than the 70s was. There was a lot more blood in the 80s. There's blood in the 70s too, but there's a lot more blood and violence in the 80s movies, and then you have Leslie Nielsen, who was able to do comedy. Now with Heston,
violent, Jewel.
What's that?
The 70s were pretty violent.
Yeah, they were. I'm not taking anything away from the 70s, mind you, but when I think of, like, to me, like, if Heston would have did Airplane, okay, like if he did that, if he did that comedy, it wouldn't have changed. It wouldn't have changed the perception of Heston being like, he wouldn't have went from that to doing a bunch of comedy sequels. I don't feel he would have went right back to a serious, because he could have. Whereas,
sure, It would have given him more of a sense of irony.
Right. No, I agree. I agree with you.
I mean, you never saw Heston do a comedy. Neither did the audiences for Private War of Major Benson. Think about it. Now he did Town and Country. I think that was his last film. Yeah. And that was a comedy. That's a comedy directed by notorious comedy Warren Beatty. Yeah. But Chuck was always above politics, and that's what he doesn't get appreciated for. He was always, who his favorite collaborator was? Vanessa Redgrave, and she was his favorite, and it was mutual. They loved working with each other, and yet Vanessa was always getting arrested for some pinko thing in England. So, but Chuck just shrugged and said, "Well, I like working with her, so I'm gonna do it." Yeah. He even did you see Town and Butch? Did we see that together? I think we might have. We didn't. Not in the theaters. Because it's like, if Heston's going to be in a movie, I'm going to go see it. And he roars like a lion at one point. They even put in like a lion sound of it. You can find it. It's really strange. I don't know what was going on in that film.
Yeah. I tell you, I watched, I gave The Mouth of Madness by John Carpenter a second watch, and I wish I wouldn't have.
You gave Watch of Madness a second mouth.
Similar. Very similar.
Oh my God. So this movie centers around the post Civil War, and it's about Indians who attack, and then they burn one guy, and one guy says, "Who will you send after me now?" And then you see the title, Major Dundee. This was a fixture. I gotta say this. This was a fixture in my grandfather's house. This is probably one of my grandfather's top 2 westerns he would watch. And it's a hell of a movie. 2 hours long. I love. Yes, there is plenty of desert in Mexico, and I love it for that. I want to thank Sam Peckinpah for allowing me to salivate over the desert in this movie and dry my mouth repeatedly. I love the scenery in this movie, guys. Really well shot, and I love how they do. I love how the sunlight in Mexico, even it's like when you watch, and maybe this is the lighting, like the way they're doing, like how it's lit. I don't know, but it's way different than the desert lighting you get in The Searchers. It's like it looks almost dark when the sun's out. Is that just me, or?
No, I think a lot of ways you can shoot something. A lot of filters, a lot of times of day. Ford was very specific about when he wanted to shoot and how, and it's because if you go to the desert over the course of a day, you get an incredible variety of ways that the sun and the moon play across things. And then when you get filters, anything's possible. I mean, it lacks the most transgressive butter churning scene I've ever witnessed, which was in Will Penny. But, he churned butter in that film with no regard for human decency. But it's, and it. But yeah, it's a beautiful film. The thing I love about this movie, well, I love a lot of things. His relationship with Richard Harris is terrific. It's fraught with tension and weird respect. And I also really, 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 I love the dialogue. It is incredibly in your face and impudent. Let's say he's using the phrase "fiddler's bitch" at one point. I mean, just like things that Chuck was at the height of his, maybe he was the president of the Screen Actors Guild at this point or something. He was at the height of his, I'm going to make the kind of movies I want to make, boys, and you're going to get out of my way kind of spirit. And I admire the hell out of that. Chuck was, because he didn't even get paid for this thing. He gave up his salary so that Peckinpah could finish it. God bless him. He didn't have to do that. Most actors wouldn't. And yet he was always fishing Sam Peckinpah out of brothels. Like seriously, like, where's Sam? We're supposed to shoot. We don't know. He went to this address, and so Chuck, in costume, I would like to imagine, and just as I've had it, and goes to the brothel and says, "Sam, it's time to go." You know, these are true stories, Joel. Yeah. I'm totally serious. Read In the Arena, which is Heston's book, and he.
We were.
The actors.
Last
talks about Fraser's rock tumbler.
Last week I was reading off Wiki before we switched to Jason Voorhees. We talked about Heston taking over the direction of this movie. He actually directs some of this movie because Peckinpah kept wandering off and getting drunk. And, but there's an interview, and I'll go find it when we get done here, but there's an interview with Heston, and they ask him, so you did Major Dundee, for free? And he says, yeah, by accident. He said, I trusted Peckinpah to finish the film on time. And like, I admire Heston. I think Charlton Heston does not get enough credit for being one of the most patient and trusting actors, who's somebody who, hey, he was drunk, but you know what? We all have our days. I trust Sam Peckinpah. And I'm taking nothing away from Peckinpah. He's an incredible director. You can see that in this goddamn movie. I mean, the way this thing is shot and the way it's done will blow anyone's mind, because I'd rather see something like this than a bunch of CGI bullshit nonsense that we see today. Yeah. It is so ridiculous. Go, just for the sheer goddamn beauty of this movie, go watch it, because from start to finish, from the savagery of the Indians to the Confederate soldiers who were jailed, because it is such a great shot of the jail sequence when there's the little fist exchange between Heston's character and the other guy's character. Really, really, just, I love that. You don't see enough realism in movies today, and it's because of this nonsense that we get today. We don't get enough. Well, let's shoot at an actual location. Let's actually go there and film, instead of just, let's CGI the hell out of it. I'm sorry, go ahead, Butch.
There was CGI that was shot for this. There was CGI that was shot for this, but it's just a lingering view of a punch card. CGI was very different at that time. Computers could only do so much. Just a punch card.
Insert. Now, you guys have both talked about how much you like film and stuff. To this day, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I feel like there is a great film in here. Yes. I feel like there's a great film in here, but somewhere between the studio interference and Sam Peckinpah not being able to control himself, it's like, what's the saying about, how do you make a statue? Chip away everything that isn't the statue. This movie needs some chipping away, in my opinion.
It does. It's funny, when they did the restored version, there was a part of me that thought, I don't know if more Major Dundee is really what Major Dundee needs. Maybe it needs a cut. And they never think about that in Hollywood. They never think, what could we achieve if we just, because it's not a matter of necessarily taking things away. It's a matter of giving focus to the things that really matter and getting rid of distractions. I don't know. I just watched the restored version for the first time the other day, and it's just too much stuff about girls. But it's true. It's every time I feel like it gets into the sort of gooey romance stuff. It's like, wait a minute, this isn't the movie I signed up for. What's this?
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure how that happened. I don't know if that was Peckinpah's idea or what.
Well, Peckinpah, the younger Mexican girl that the bugler falls into with, I don't know if y'all know, Peckinpah and her, the actress, married not once, not twice, but three times. So I think he might have been trying.
God.
Hey, B, you could guess what, baby? You've got a scene tomorrow morning. Yeah. Today I was.
Yeah, that says it all.
It's Black Friday, and my wife and granddaughter went out shopping, and I'm sitting there flipping channels, and the last part of the Wild Bunch is on, and I watched that, and I'm like, looking at Major Dundee, and then looking at the Wild Bunch, which I have stated my love for over and over again. It's such. That's a man in charge of his film. That's a man that knows what he's doing. And I feel like Major Dundee fails, and it shouldn't. I mean, there's such a good cast here. There's a good story. It's interesting. As we say, interesting people doing interesting things. And I mean, you can't ask for a much better cast. And
here's a way to think about it, though. What you are seeing is a necessary stage that got us to the Wild Bunch. There might not have been a Wild Bunch without him doing Major Dundee and figuring out what he wanted to do in terms of making a movie.
Yeah. It's literally
sorry.
It's literally the prototype.
Yeah. The thing about this movie, this is a particularly geeky thing, but I think it's really true. When I first saw this movie, I think it was within a year of the premiere of Star Trek Voyager. And I completely saw the blueprint that Jerry Taylor and Brandon Braga and Rick Berman should have followed. It's easy to play Monday morning quarterback, et cetera, but this was famous enough. This is the model that the Maquis-Janeway relationship should have been. Wow, if they had made Chakotay, like the Richard Harris character, and like, yeah, we got a truce right now, but only until we're out of the Delta Quadrant. And maybe it was a mistake to even make the Maquis, because nobody cared. Nobody cared. Nobody could get worked up. But you got a group of Romulans? You got a stew going.
Yeah.
They have to unite Romulans. Yeah.
That would have been a great way, even if they kept the Maquis, just to have, that little bit of identification. But we're going to get along until, as they say a few times, until the Apache is taken or destroyed. We're going to get along until we get home, and then that's it. And the thing is with Voyager, and boy, we're off topic, and I apologize. After the end of the pilot episode, the Maquis are not Maquis anymore. They're just slightly angry Starfleeters, and that your dynamic is gone by the second episode, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. With Major Dundee, I do agree with you, because I've watched The Wild Bunch too. This movie is not as great as what The Wild Bunch is, but I think for all the issues that it had with the director, with Richard Harris, I think Richard Harris as well was wandering off, going into bars as well, from what I've read. For all the issues, this movie's still a great watch for that. I mean, I give credit to Heston because that is the one. Most people, I agree with you. Too many people, I think, want to point to Heston and I don't give a shit honestly. I don't. I don't care for any of that because Heston was such a great actor. I mean, this man sold his ass off in this movie. And you could tell he was carrying this movie when you watch it too.
I'm gonna
It's a funny concept. I'm sorry, Butch. What were you going to say?
go ahead. Go ahead. I'll get it after that. You go ahead.
What I was going to say is, in some ways, as a mental exercise, it's good to watch this movie and put the Wild Bunch out of your mind. It's sort of like it's good to put Star Wars out of your mind and watch THX 1138 or something like that, because if you are in a world where you're just getting the sort of westerns that were being made prior to Major Dundee, then this movie had to be incredibly fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, not since The Searchers, because it had stuff in common with The Searchers in a big way. Going after the Apache, hunting the Apache down, and it's kind of a curse of this movie that Peckinpah would make, one of the 10 greatest films it probably ever made, shortly after it, because then that just creates this really, 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 I won't say unfair comparison, but it's like nothing's going to compare to that.
Oh yeah.
And so it's kind of fun to just step back and pretend like, okay, well, if The Searchers doesn't exist, or not The Searchers, if Wild Bunch doesn't exist for a moment, in a lot of ways, this movie gets even better, even with the boring stuff kind of towards the end, because it does lose itself after a while. It starts out so strong and so focused and so disciplined. And then it's just kind of like, now I'm in love. And it's like, okay, Chuck, I guess.
Yeah, that scene just does not work for me. As R.G. Armstrong said, this is supposed to be Moby Dick on horseback. And Captain Ahab doesn't just, oh, I'm going over here and fall in love. And it's, what? Personally, that whole scene could just be cut out.
He's going to fall in love. It's going to be
I want to throw this off of both of you and get your opinion. One of the great horror movies of the early noughts was Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects, and my favorite character in Devil's Rejects is the sheriff, played John Quincy Waddell, played by, damn it, I didn't write his name down. Anyway.
Oh.
Yeah, you know.
This guy played Flat Top in Dixie. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like Heston's character, Major Dundee, is supposed to be likable. I mean, he admits, I'm leaving the fort. I'm going to go get the Apache. He is chasing after his whale. He is chasing after the Firefly family, and much nicer than say Sheriff Wando. I mean, because he shares the food with the Mexicans. But he is going towards the goal, and you are not stopping him. I don't feel like his character is supposed to be likable. What do you think about that?
I agree. Boom, done.
William Forsythe plays.
William Forsythe.
Yeah, Forsythe. Sorry, he plays the sheriff in Devil's Rejects. With this, I agree with you. I don't think you're supposed to. I think Major Dundee is supposed to be more closely to what John Wayne's Ethan was. Maybe even worse. Who knows? Yeah. But we do get that to a degree, but we don't get that completely.
Right.
Because even when you watch The Searchers, and I'm not trying to get off topic, John Wayne's character he pulls back a bit when they're discussing that, when they're doing that whole, when the nephew's girlfriend gets married, because it's sort of like classic Wayne camp a bit there. But after that, it's like right back to like, holy hell! It's like when you see the door shot out, and John Wayne's on the outside. It's like you sort of get why, because he does not fit in with his own family, and I do think Heston's character was supposed to be, if like Ethan, if like I said, if not worse.
Yeah, the thing about the nephew's girlfriend getting married, that, to me, that's just a breather. You know, you've been dealing with an hour and a half of kill Scar, trace Scar, what's the Peggy? What the character they're chasing or looking for, the daughter? It's not Peggy. But you have that, so you take that break and you have that bit of humor, so everybody can go, okay, now let's get ready for the climax. And I agree. I'm glad you guys see it the same way, because I was kind of thinking, I don't know. I mean, you're talking about Charlton Heston at the time, one of the biggest actors in Hollywood. So yeah. I something else I wanted to bring up. I read a review online and it said Heston was playing his, quote, usual boring self, end quote. And I'll be honest with you, that bothers me. Charlton Heston did get a bit of typecast. A lot of the big stars start playing, if you will, a version of themselves. You cast Charlton Heston, you know what you're going for. You cast Jack Nicholson, you know what you're going for. You cast Johnny Depp, you know what you're going for. Yeah. And I think later he wanted to break out of that, which goes back to your comment about talking about him. Huh?
Who said that about Chuck?
Some guy online. I didn't even bother writing down who it was. Obviously, he doesn't know much.
Yeah, well.
Patrick and I talked about this once. The movie Needful Things, the adaptation of the Stephen King book, directed by and we both think that he wanted Charlton to play Leland Gaunt, the villain.
Obviously, it's obvious.
Not taking anything away from Max von Sydow, but imagine Charlton Heston in that role.
Yeah, I mean, that's just because Fraser really never made a movie without his dad. So, and that would have been the ad line. It's like, I played John the Baptist for the Christians. I played Moses for the Jews. I played Brigham Young for the Mormons. And now, Festivus for the rest of us. But that really would have been the irony. It would have been this wonderful, Charlton Heston really covers the waterfront with that. Well, Chuck wanted to be in Ninth Configuration. I think he even had the rights to it for a while when it was Twinkle, Twinkle, Killer Kane. Wow. Chuck often, I feel like, there was just this opportunity for him to level up in terms of what he was able to show people. And there's only one place toward the latter part of his career where it didn't elude him. And he totally matched it. And that is in Treasure Island, which is one of the best films of that period with Christian Bale. And
I'll throw in, when he hosted Saturday Night Live also.
Oh, yes. I might just lose control and do a mad devil dance if you keep making fun of me. Yeah. Oh, it was great. He was really good. That's, if you've never seen that particular SNL, because he did an SNL, I think, back in the 70s. But then this one was in the 90s. And the 90s is they have the Brady Bill, we have the Bill of Rights. Yeah. That was a hell of an episode.
There are movies I'm surprised he wasn't in. Like, I'll give you a great example, RoboCop. Like, I always felt Heston should have been in that in some way, but.
Do you ever read Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, the comic book series, Miller? I know Patrick has.
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, Jewel! Wow.
Heston, all the way.
Oh,
Heston is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
I believe it.
It's a 55-year-old Batman who's been retired for the last 10 years, and basically he's like, no, I can't do this anymore, and he goes back to being Batman. It's a little dated, it's very 80s, but it's really worth a read. Dark Knight Returns, written and drawn by Frank Miller. Don't ever read anything else that Frank Miller did, though.
You know who you cast as Commissioner Gordon in that one? You get one of two actors, James Garner or James Coburn.
What about Ernest Borgnine?
I love Ernie.
Okay,
but James Garner or James Coburn.
Those are great choices, and I love James Garner. There is a panel.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
This is Gordon. Well, thank you.
There's one panel in nice. That they draw. He draws Gordon, and he looks like Borgnine. And I haven't been able to get that out of my head.
Sure. Borg of 9. You're gonna be assimilated. Futile. Yeah.
I'll tell you a good one. You ever see the Punisher movie? I think it's Ray Stevens.
Fortunately, and I like Ray Stevens. Ray Stevens,
the comedian.
No. He's
the Punisher War Journal, I believe, is the title.
Yeah, Warzone. Man.
Ray Stevenson.
Ray Stevenson.
Ray Stevens is the country comedian.
Oh, sorry, right. Stevenson. Sorry.
That would have been so weird.
I think Ray Stevenson played a great Punisher in that movie. I mean, he played it, really did. I just think sometimes when you get into superhero casting, like the guy who played the Punisher before him,
Thomas Jane.
Yeah, Thomas Jane. I don't think he did a bad job, but I feel it was a little like. I'll say this: you don't always need an origin story when your character's so well known to start it off. But they keep doing this with superhero. Let's do the origin story. Let's do the origin story first.
Let's tie the main villain into the origin story, whether they're in part of it or not.
Right.
The Joker.
Right. I think that's just you don't always need an origin story. We talked about Superman, you and me, Butch. Like Superman Legacy. Do not have Superman's fucking origin story. For Christ's sake.
Do it like I said. Do it during the credits. Just have a series. Show Krypton blowing up. Show the spacecraft. Show the Kents. You don't need to go over. Everybody knows it. And for the love of God, we do not need to see Martha and Thomas Wayne die again in another Batman movie. We get it. Everybody knows it. And if they don't, somebody will lean over and go, his parents were killed.
The pearls. Bung, bung, bung. Yeah. I'm just...
Take that. Sleeping, and that he's having a nightmare, and all you see is the pearls falling, and he jumps up. There you go. You've referenced it. Yeah.
But back to Major Dundee. What's you guys' favorite scene in this movie?
Really, wow. Oh man, we're gonna be here a while.
Here's my favorite scene, because I knew Jill was going to ask it. All it says is favorite scene, and I'm like, because I was like,
It's kind of a tough question, isn't it?
It is. It really is. I can tell you, it's not the Heston recuperating in the house with the lady.
I think early in the movie, the really his first big two-hander with Richard Harris. Any of that stuff where he and Harris's character are butting heads and figuring out how they're going to get along and all that's the stuff when I walk away from the movie that sticks with me, because sometimes I'll go, 10 years I won't see this movie. But if you ask me, Major Dundee, that's the first thing that occurs to me. That's unfortunately the song.
For me, it's not really a scene. I think it is and they only say it, I think 3 times, but it kept being said in my head until the Apache is taken or destroyed.
That's just a tagline in the movie.
Just like Patrick said, them Richard Harris and Charlton Heston bouncing off each other. To me, that's part of that, but also, it's the tagline. Yeah. What about you, Joel? Let's hear about the desert porn.
Let me tell you, I got so many dirty images in my mind. No, actually, I love the scene that I love the most is the ending of this movie. How they end up killing off, well, toward the end of the movie, they kill off the main antagonist, because it makes you feel like, oh, he's going to get away again, and then no, they just get him. I think the climax of this movie, the conclusion of how they kill him, was really well done enough. I mean, it's darkly lit, but it adds to the movie in a very undertone way. I love how they're in that loop. They're just on top, they're around him, and it's like, is Heston's, are they going to get out of this? I mean, I know it's called Major Dundee when you first watch the movie, but good ending. To the end.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw it, and I still think it every time I see it. I kind of feel like they're going to get to a point, okay, we've killed him, we're coming back, and I'll see you sometime tomorrow. And, gives him 24 hours or whatever to head out. And we've reached an agreement or whatever. And glad they didn't do it. At the time, it wasn't something you see, but I think you see it too much now, and it's good to see something else. Even though the characters they're different. I don't think you see too many of the characters written like that have those the honor and the respect. I don't know if respect's the right term, but respect for each other.
Now, Jewel, let me ask you a question, because Chuck had 2 movies where he was really proud of the acting, and this was not one of them. I mean, he wasn't unproud of the acting, but I had Will Penny, which is a discussion you guys excluded me from, and just kidding, but it is a good movie. But then also Khartoum. Now, you guys talked about Khartoum?
I have to see Khartoum.
Okay.
I've never seen
it. Oh my God. It's a great movie. It will make you if Lawrence of Arabia didn't make you appreciate how boring Lawrence of Arabia is, Khartoum will definitely. When we talk about crazy Brits in the desert leading weird military campaigns, Khartoum is so incredibly good, and his work with Olivier is just riveting, and Heston was really proud of the acting in that.
I'm gonna drop a bomb here, and Joel doesn't know it, so you might want to watch his face as I say this. We're going to redo Will Penny as soon as I can find. I would like to find another movie to pair with it. But we're going to redo Will Penny, and you, Mr. McCray, will be there.
I'll be there. What would be a good pairing? It's like wine. What would be a good pairing with Will Penny? Is Penny?
I've been thinking for a while, and nothing good comes up really.
You want a movie to pair with Will Penny? Now, does it have to be a Charlton Heston movie?
It needs to be related in some form, shape, or fashion. It doesn't have necessarily Heston. Like I was thinking about westerns that take place during Christmas, and there aren't many really. So, and this is really the big other. There's other westerns that Heston did, but this is the other big western. So
here's a weird one. You could do Last of Sheila, because that's the other Joan Hackett movie I can think of.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like grasping at straws at this point. Is there any movie with a character named The Button? Godfather 2. Yeah, we had a lot of buttons. It's button week.
We don't have to come up with it now, but we are gonna redo that, and you're gonna be there.
I
So
love that movie. I love Will Penn.
yeah. Let me go back to my questions for you gentlemen.
Right.
Mr. McCray.
Yes.
You can only pick one. Who's your favorite character?
Major Dundee. It ain't Michael Anderson Jr.
Joel, same question.
James Coburn's character. I'm a sucker for Coburn.
Mine's R.G. Armstrong as Reverend Dahlstrom. I love that character. I love it when Heston. Let's see, what is it? God, with all due respect, God has nothing to do with it. I intend to smite the wicked, not save the heathen. And RG just like 17 years ago, I married the characters, and I got to protect my flock. I mean, he is just such a badass in this film, and I won't say underutilized, but underutilized.
So there. So that pipe and smoke it.
Okay, well we could pair The Last of Sheila with
I think that would be a little bit of Joel. I appreciate you being a team player on this. I think that would be a little bit of a stretch. I mean,
let's think about it. We don't have to come up with it tonight. I've been doing this for like a month now, so we don't.
A Christmas movie. You want a Christmas movie, right?
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon.
No.
No, Joel, seriously, we appreciate it, but here's the thing, that this is, I think, a movie about someone who has one distinct personality, getting stranded someplace, and emerging with a greater understanding of themselves, because that to me is, Will Penny's a story of transformation, or near transformation, that, is so sad because he realizes, or he's told himself, no, I'm not gonna, it's too late for me now. It's just like, oh God. So yeah, what are other movies about someone kind of separating themselves and changing?
Like, we can work on this for a while. We're not going to do it next week, but we are going to redo it.
All right.
All right. We'll think of something.
And darn, I'll have to rewatch Will Penny again.
I love that movie,
my friend.
Anthony Zerbe and Donald Pleasance. Wait till you see this Donald Pleasance actor. I think you'll really take to him.
What about Omega Man? Charlton Heston, Anthony Zerbe.
Yes, yeah. And it is a story about someone getting separated from the rest of society and changing. It's perfect.
Joel, I'm gonna stab you a little bit here. What would you change? You can change one thing about this film. No, let me correct my question. You have to change one thing about this film. What would it be?
I would completely, I'm going to go to hell. I would completely cut out the women of this movie. And I would have them there would literally actually be a large French fort garrison where they had to sneak in and kill the French to steal the supplies. That's what I would put into this goddamn movie.
Take out the women, take it out on the French.
That's right. Because the French deserve it, goddammit. No, God.
Guys, Joel, you've gone against the Irish in a recent episode. Now you're taking on the French. I mean, it's a little weird.
Something about international people. I don't know. Anyway,
the French are just going to write an artistic treatise about, your soullessness. But that's it. That's as bad as it gets.
Patrick,
I did what to who where?
Same question. You have to make one change to this film. What is it?
I'd cut it to about 90 minutes, and I would keep it true. I would keep it very tightly focused on what it starts out to do.
It does kind of look that way.
What about you?
Well, I think you and Joel actually have very similar answers, in my opinion. Though I would leave the scene with the bugler. He's late for reveille or whatever, and it's obvious that he's become a man. I would leave that scene in just for fun. But yeah, I think I would cut it. Like I said, this movie is a little too much. If there was like a 90-minute version of this, and then this came out as the extended cut, I'd probably enjoy it a lot more.
Exactly.
What's something about this movie that not necessarily your favorite scene, but you were shocked at?
Nothing. I mean, it's not. This is not a bold and transgressive film. I was pleased. Oh, the language for the era. Yeah, that was Fiddler's Bitch and stuff like that. That's pretty strong stuff for back then. They didn't use the word fiddler casually. Violinist. Saxophonist.
Something that surprised me about this film. I'm going to say nothing, to be perfectly honest. Not that, oh my God, I just this, but knowing Sam Peckinpah pretty well, I knew this wasn't going to have a happy ending.
There's those.
Yeah. Like, the beginning scene where we find the serviceman tied upside down over the fire. And, it just, I mean it in a good way. Nothing surprised me, because it's like when Sam Peckinpah is directing a film, nothing is off the table and anything can happen. So I feel like anything can happen. So I just like, okay, I'm sitting back. Where are you going to take me? Let's hit the road.
If this movie had been made by cartoon dog versions of these characters, these people would have been Paw, Peck, and Sam.
That joke was a real bow wow.
All the behind, even though I learned about the behind the scenes stuff after watching the movie the first time, all the behind the scenes, Peckinpah getting drunk, Harris it's like, wow. You would hearing all that, you would have expected this movie to not look well. But it does. Like, when you hear all those problems going on, and Heston the lead actor has to be literally his character almost off screen, you sort of you admire Heston a lot, and then you walk away with looking at this movie and go, for all those problems, this movie is still really, really good.
I'll shoot this movie until the director is captured or destroyed.
I know we all know this. I'm going to say it for anybody watching this video that's still here. God bless you if you are. There is a repeated story at some time where Charlton Heston threatened Sam Peckinpah cavalry saber, and in a separate scene went towards him on a horse, intending to joust him. I believe.
Him.
Now, for the amusement, and I knew this is for. I don't know if you can read it. It's Charlton Heston, The Actor's Life. It's his journals from 1956 to 1976.
It's a great book. It's one of my favorites.
It is. And I went back and I found where they'd finished filming, and I thought, okay, maybe there'll be some good stuff in here. And there's only one entry where Heston's like, really got into it with Sam today. And that's really I really knocked heads with Sam. And according to, every time I read that story about threatening with the saber and charging him with the horse, everybody puts in, Heston was always pretty low key, pretty easy to get along with. And You know, for somebody that low key to go, I'm going to run you through.
He had to
That
really be pushed.
he
My
had to be.
God.
I would love to hear someone involved in this film talk about, yeah, Sam did this and Sam did that, or whatever happened. And I would love to hear the whole story.
It's got to be good. I mean, because Chuck's a pretty patient guy. So what on earth had to happen to trigger Charlton Heston to charge at him with a saber? You know what I wish had been going on? I wish Teddy Roosevelt had been president on January 6th. Can you imagine what he would have done? He would have charged in there on horseback with a saber and a pistol, and he would have come out with a QAnon shaman's head dangling from the side of the saddle. That's all I can say.
And look at the camera and go, anybody else?
That's right. That's right. Who's next? Oh, yeah.
Hey, Patrick, I have a question for you since
Sure.
you brought up Roosevelt. Or what do you think about the missing 411?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
I sent it to Butch. I'll send it to you. It's about the people going missing in national parks and stuff.
Oh, I'm sure there's a rational explanation for all. I mean, parks are dangerous places. It's full of wild animals and bears and caves and, I mean, and they cover huge amounts of ground, obviously. So, shit happens. And that's why I don't go to parks very often. I stick to the trails and things.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of questions about that. I mean, like, how big a space are we talking about? All the parks? Are we talking about parks with water or that are water?
Yeah.
Also, where people can drown, be eaten by fish and pulled out to sea, and like caves with weird crevices where you fall down and they're not going to find you until your lunch for a bunch of carrion. Life is so exciting until you're rational. And then and then you just step back, and I hate to be the party pooper on that. That's why people don't like skeptics. And we're not skeptics to poop on the party. We've got toilets. We're just skeptics because we do love how wacky that stuff is, and then we stop and go, maybe not. So that when the truly wacky things happen, it genuinely gives us a sense of wonder. That's my first blush.
Okay. Cool. Is there anything you guys want to add about Major Dundee before we get out of here?
No, I don't have anything else. It's a great movie. Go see it. Fall in behind the Major. With Mitch Miller. Fall in behind the Major.
I picked this movie for this week. It's Butch's turn for next week.
That's the one thing I forgot to do, Joel, is pick a film. So let's turn around real quick.
Wait, I've got it. I stop you right here. Jewel and I are talking about going over our Christmas movie lists. Let's do On Her Majesty's Secret Service, because that's on my Christmas movie list. It's a Bond movie. I don't know, Butch, are you okay with that?
I have to admit something to you, Patrick.
You don't have to like it.
No.
Oh, okay.
I have never watched that movie all the way through.
Oh, it's great.
I know.
It's great all the way through. Not just me. I mean, ask any Bond fans. It's considered one of the best Bond movies ever made, and it's very close to the book. It's a hell of a movie.
So now I have a reason to sit and go more. I don't know why. I think Lazenby. I know why they did it. I really don't like that. Well, this never happened to the other guy. It's like that's a little too winky for me.
It is, and you just have to accept it's going to be there, and then keep moving. And and see, we don't come from the context of what a rock star Sean Connery was and how big those Bond films were in their era. I mean, I think they had to confront it, even if it's too meta. It's just like, okay, guys, yes, we know he's not Sean Connery. We've admitted. Can we go on? Do we have your permission to continue now? Okay, good. Thanks. We're gonna make our movie.
I'll talk about it when we talk about the movie because I have something to add, but I'll wait till we do the movie. But guys, gentlemen, it is always a pleasure. I'll see you guys next Friday night for On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and I do really think you'll enjoy Dark Angel, Patrick, when you watch.
I can't wait.
But Tuesday we're gonna do Bad Santa, me and Patrick. Friday is On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So,
one last thing I want to throw in, Joel, for that poor one person that's watched this whole video. God bless you, sir or ma'am. Or tomorrow is Joel's birthday, so we're going.
Happy birthday, Joel! Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday, Mr. Sane! Hap. Happy birthday to you. Sniff wisely, Joel. Sniff wisely.
First of all, thank you for that. I appreciate that, gentlemen.
Happy birthday,
gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Patrick, I'll see you Sunday for a Dark Shadows video.
I'll be there.
See you, Butch.
See ya.
Bye.